Hey guys, we're pulling up to one of our out yards today. We're supposed to have a pretty significant snow and ice event in the next few days coming in on Saturday, so we need to get down here to this out yard and check it. We know we won't be able to access it if we get a lot of snow and ice. It's hard to get in there when it's rained heavily, so even with four-wheel drive it's kind of hard to get in there, so we would have to bring the tractor to check it, and we really don't want to do that. So we need to get out here and make sure their stores are good and make sure they're looking all right. Maybe 2 weeks before we can get back in here, and if that's the case, it's better to be proactive than reactive, because the colonies can starve to death really quick. So we just wanted to bring you along and show you what we're doing today. Hey guys, we made it into our yard, didn't have any issues. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to go through these colonies, and like I say, we're not going to be able to probably access this yard for 2 weeks. So we want to go through each colony and make sure they got ample amount of sugar bricks and ample amount of pollen in contact with the cluster. Reason we're doing that, I don't advocate feeding pollen supplement this early, generally speaking. These colonies started brood rearing early because of our warm weather we had in the fall and winter. So they're raising frames of bees, but we don't have enough resources in these singles to keep them alive. Spring dwindle is a big issue, and what that is bees only have what they have stored in the colony, and if you don't have pollen in the comb or honey or nectar or carbohydrate source, they're left to raise those spring bees with just the fat reserves and what they have stored in their bodies, and a lot of times that's just not enough to get a colony through the spring, get them out of cold weather. There is a trickle of pollen coming in, but it's nowhere near a pollen flow, so to speak. So, and keep in mind, if we get this half to an inch of ice that they're talking about getting, it's going to kill any natural pollen source that's out there. So with these colonies already brooding up and raising brood, we think it's vital to go ahead and give them a little bit of pollen supplement, because we're at least a month away from our natural pollen coming in. We may get some at the end of January, we may get some at the 1st of February, but we may not. We could have bad weather, kill the blooms, and then that you'll be without any pollen or protein sources in your colony. Now keep in mind, running singles and building these colonies up the way we are and throwing pollen supplement to them and allowing them to continue to brood may create some challenges for us in the spring. Now we may have to go in here and equalize and split these colonies earlier than normal, but I would rather do that than have our yard starve to death. So that's what we're doing today. I thought we'd bring you along and let you see how we do it. I'm not sure if you can see behind me, this yard is a great yard, but it has its challenges. It gets real wet and muddy, and with what they're calling for, maybe 3 to 4 inches of snow and a ½ inch of ice, it would be impossible for us to get in here in our trucks. We could bring the tractor and get in here, but that's no fun. Nobody wants to do that. So what we're doing is we're getting on this early, and just keep in mind when you're setting up your out yards, make sure you've got somewhere where you can at least get into it. This isn't a perfect out yard because of the challenges to get into it. It's just food for thought. Whenever you're placing your bees somewhere, make sure that you can get into it. We can get into this yard if we have to, with inclement weather or whatever. It's just no fun to do that. So always be mindful of where you're putting your bees and how your access to it's going to go, or you're going to tear up something trying to get into it, because you don't want to mess up the landowner's property or anything like that. So just be mindful when you're out looking for new places for a bee yard. Access is very important. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but as you can tell, they're eating their pollen supplement patty. They've ate a good chunk out of this sugar brick, and they're also eating on that pollen supplement patty. What we're going to do is we're going to get the bees off of this one, put another one on, and just fill the top of this cluster up with pollen patties and sugar bricks. Another thing we also like to do is keep a sugar block on top of where our plug goes. Sometimes those plugs can leak a little bit of water around it, and if you got a sugar brick on top of it, that sugar brick will collect that water. So we like to kind of center it in front of it if that's possible. The main thing though is keep it on top of the cluster of bees. If you can see on this cluster, they hadn't really consumed a whole lot of what we gave them. So we're going to check under this and see what they're eating. They are consuming it. You always want to make sure your queen's not under it or in danger whenever you're doing this, because if you kill a queen this time of year, you're pretty much out of luck. We'll slide this pollen patty up out of the way. Put this one down here. Just put that one right on top of that. This colony here, it don't need any feeding because it's dead. That just goes to show you we did the best we could. Treated this colony the same as we did all the other ones, and it didn't make it through the winter. So we're going to close this one up and move on to the next one. Same with this colony. We're just adding sugar blocks and as much supplement as we can get on them, just in case they need it. As you can see, this colony is definitely eating their sugar brick, and also it's some from condensation in the hive dripping down into this spot. So we're going to make sure they have plenty. And you don't have to worry about any of that little bits of sugar falling. It's of no concern. They'll clean it out on a warm day. You can see that's where they've started eating on this pollen supplement. This is a lot of work, and it's not a lot of fun work, but it's vital that we do this to prevent these bees from starving. Give me another piece. And I try to make it as neat as possible in there, but it's hard to do because they chew it up, you break them, and it don't look as neat and pretty as it did the first time we put them on. But it doesn't matter, as long as it's in there and they're on top of it, they'll be good. They won't starve out. Now keep in mind, the reason we are doing this so soon, since the last time we did it, is because just the inclement weather, and we don't know when we're going to be able to get back to this yard. It may be a week, 2 weeks and they can consume, you know, this in a 2-week period of time, and they may not starve, but bees need to feel like they have plenty of storage, pollen and honey and stuff like that to continue brood rearing. And if they don't, they will back down. And at this point, I don't want these bees going backwards anymore. It'll start warming up for us at the end of February. We may have to, you know, like I say, split these early, but that's okay. As you can see, they're eating the supplement pretty well. Keep in mind, all colonies are different. Some of them will eat it rapidly. Some of them will just barely chew on it. Some of them won't hardly touch it. But if they need it, it's there. Like I said, we did an assessment and they don't have much pollen in these combs, if any. So I'd rather give them what I know that they have to have and know what's in there than have to worry about it. Like, if you can see that they're all over everything, they're eating the supplement, they're on top of the sugar brick, they're consuming it. So I enjoy seeing this. Healthy bees eat, and as long as they're eating, we'll give it to them, and whatever's left come spring, when the natural stuff's out there, we'll clean it out. As you can see, there is small hive beetles still. It hadn't got cold enough to do anything with those suckers yet. Try to kill him. It's hard to get sometimes. I got him. And a little bit of small hive beetles with this. Like I say, we'll come back and check it in 2 weeks and make sure there's no issues with hive beetles in it, which generally this time of the year we don't have much problems with them, you know, being in it. So try not to kill bees when you're placing this stuff. Sometimes it's hard, but and that's basically how we do it. I mean, it's not no secret or rocket science or anything like that. You just want food in contact with the bees where they can get it. Keep in mind, if it gets real cold for 3 or 4 days and they're not in contact with food, even if there's food in the box, they won't move over to it and they'll starve to death. Also keep in mind, when you have bees like this on top of your top cover, the queen could be on that, so always glance at it. She's not on this one, but when we put all this feed in here, the bees up top won't be able to access the colony again, so they'll freeze to death up here at night, or starve to death, whatever they do, but they'll die. And we've made that mistake before, so be mindful to get those bees back in the colony before you close it up. As you can see, this colony's hungry. They've already consumed one pollen supplement patty there. They're heavily working on this one, and their sugar brick's 3/4 of the way gone. Dry sugar can be a lifesaver, but it's hard to work with a lot of times, but sometimes that's the only choice you have. More of the same with this colony. Also, another thing that you might want to consider is these sugar bricks. They're not hard to make, and we have a recipe on it, I think, on our channel. But it takes time to make them. It takes several days to make them. You can put dry sugar on them under newspaper, mountain camp method, and it'll work. It'll get you by. But these are much better in my opinion. It's just a little more work. So we like to keep at least 100 of these made up all the time. There's some small hive beetle larvae in these. So we're going to take this patty out. I'm sure there's some in this one also. The other ones have looked really good, so we left those. If we see a lot of larvae in it, we can take it out. It's no big deal, especially this time of the year. It's harder for the bees to police it, and when they're, you know, busting at the seams in a real strong, healthy colony. But it totally outweighs not having supplement on them. Just dealing with a little bit of larva. Will you give me another one, Corbin?
I got one right here.
And I know a lot of times it looks like I'm just pushing those down on the bees, but we're not. There's actually burr comb on most of these colonies that we're actually setting it on top of. Can you grab me another sugar brick, please? Hold that end up. Now that amount right there will last this colony at least till we can get back to check them. It won't be too long before the temps warm up enough that we can put some syrup on these colonies. We're just not there yet. Like this colony, if it was 2 weeks before we got back, they could be possibly starved to death. We put these on a little over a week ago, I believe, and they've already consumed one patty. Most of their sugar brick is gone, and they're not happy to see us. Again, this colony would be in danger of starving, you know, if we wasn't out here doing this. They're growing rapidly. Like I say, it is a little early for us. Normally we don't start rearing brood the way we have this time of year, but you know, bees do what bees do, and there's nothing we can do about it but try to help them along as much as possible. There's no way that this colony would make it right now the way they're rearing brood if we didn't intervene and help. That's what being a beekeeper is helping the bees whenever they need it, or whenever nature throws them a curveball. Nature's brutal sometimes. Here's another strong colony. This is one we're hoping to graft from this spring to raise our queens from. They're doing really good. If they make it through the winter, it'll definitely be one of our grafting colonies. That's good.
I'm gonna get my shoulder.
Hey guys, I thought I'd introduce you to the bee crew. This is Corbin and Carson, and they work out here in these bee yards with us. They get stung up, they sweat, and really we couldn't do it without their help on the level we're doing it. They've been a blessing. They're very interested in bees, and they really enjoy it, and they know a lot about bees. So just want to say how appreciative we are to have their help.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hey guys, we just finished this yard up. We're sweating. It's about 50 degrees out here, but we've been working. We're hot. Got all these colonies fed up. They're looking really good. Have no issues with them. We did have that one dead out, but hey, that's beekeeping. We don't know why it died. I can't tell you why it died. We treated it the same as we did any other colony in the yard, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Really have high hopes for this yard. Keep in mind, we may be out here bringing you along splitting a little early because we're throwing protein to them, and I'm not going to stop giving it to them probably until the natural, well, I'm not going to stop giving it to them until the natural pollen, you know, comes in. So they're brooding up now. Hope to make some good splits off of these colonies. We really appreciate you guys watching our videos. We never thought it would take off, you know, the way it has, by no means. By no means is our way the only way to keep bees. We just try to show you what we do because it's been pretty successful for us. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and we really appreciate you watching. Have a blessed day. Try to give y'all a little view of how it is to get into this out yard. Now keep in mind, we can keep the grass and stuff bush hogged down. That's not an issue. The issue's rain, mud, snow and ice, which is what we're fixing to get. So that's something you want to keep in mind whenever you're putting out yards somewhere, is accessibility. It's very important. And we could ride the tractor from the shop to this bee yard and then carry everything in the bucket or on a pallet and drive it down the road, but that would take probably 20 minutes to get here, and then it'd be muddy. You have to clean it and put it back up, so it's just a lot. And here's a big hill we got to contend with getting in and out. But sometimes whenever you're splitting, you put bees where you can put them, and this is one of the places we found that we were able to put them, so we were glad to have it and still are glad to have it. That's that hill I was talking about, and it gets real slick when it's muddy. So just wanted to bring you along, kind of show you this yard and how it's accessed. And you know, even with four-wheel drive, getting up this little road, it's real slick and hard to get up. So keep that in mind. Anywhere that you can put bees may not be accessible all the time, and like right now, that's why we're doing this early, because if we couldn't access this in the next, you know, week, you know, and you had no means to get here or whatever, it'd make it really hard. You'd have to park, you know, and carry stuff a long way to get to your bees, and it's really counterproductive to do that. So just make sure you can get into them and access them, and if you can't, always make sure you go to them early before the rain or the bad weather gets to you.